What if everything we thought we knew about Shanks, Loki, and the fate of the world was only half the story? For years, the world of One Piece has treated Loki as a sealed disaster and Shanks as the man who stopped him. But beneath that simple narrative lies something far more dangerous, far more deliberate, a long game that began with Roger, passed through Shanks, and is now reaching its breaking point through Luffy. Every chain, every silence, every sacrifice was never about punishment, but about timing. Now that Luffy has awakened the power of Nika, the era of waiting is over. The locks are breaking, the pieces are moving, and the final board is being revealed. Elbaf is no longer just a land of giants, it is the center of the world's future. And standing at the heart of it all is a misunderstood prince, a red-haired guardian of history, and a generation ready to shoulder the fate of the entire world. Alright, before we dive any deeper and keep this anime storytelling journey alive together, make sure you subscribe, smash that like button, and share your thoughts in the comments so the hype doesn't die down. Now then, let's get right into the discussion. Let's roll. From the very beginning of the Elbaf arc, Oda planted a powerful narrative. Loki was a massive threat. The story made it clear that even Shanks had no choice but to stop him. However, after chapter 1170, that entire explanation begins to collapse. Piece by piece, the truth surfaces. Loki is not the monster Elbaf believes him to be, and chaining him to the sacred tree suddenly makes no sense. Unless Shanks was actually trying to prevent something far greater and far more dangerous. So what truly happened after Loki was forced to kill his own father? Throughout the Elbaf arc, Oda quietly scattered clues. Details that once seemed confusing, even meaningless, suddenly become critical once the truth behind Harold's death is revealed. Rereading the arc now feels like watching Fight Club for the second time. Everything clicks in a completely new way. From the start, Oda deliberately constructed a false image of Loki. When his name was first mentioned in Whole Cake Island, readers assumed he was just a weak prince heartbroken over Lola's rejection. But the moment his design was revealed, it became obvious. Almost everything we thought about Loki was wrong. After that, Oda aggressively shaped the audience's perception. Loki was portrayed as cold, ruthless, a kingslayer who murdered his own father to obtain a legendary devil fruit, a man who supposedly wanted to destroy Elbaf and the world itself. This narrative was reinforced relentlessly, over 12 times in just 20 chapters. Oda had never pushed such an image this hard, not even with Crocodile, Doflamingo, Kaido, or any other major villain. The message was clear: Loki is the true villain. Then came the final twist of the flashback, the shocking involvement of Emu, Harold, and the legendary devil fruit. Yes, Loki did kill Harold. But not for the devil fruit. He did it to protect Elbaf from his own father, who had fallen under Emu's control. And yet, the world continues to brand him as a king's murderer. What makes it even stranger is this: Shanks and Skopper Goban were in the palace when everything happened. They witnessed the entire event with their own eyes. So why did they stay silent? Not only that, not a single giant in Elbaf even knows that Shanks and Goban were there that day. The version of history believed by Elbaf is completely different. They believe Loki slaughtered over 100 giants, murdered Harold to consume the devil fruit, and that Jiru, who tried to stop him, was stabbed through the head. In their story, only Loki and Jiru survived. No Shanks. No Goban. Even more unsettling is Loki's own behavior. Whenever he is accused of these crimes, he remains calm and never defends himself. When Hydarin accused him of insulting their mother, Loki still stayed silent, despite the fact that we know how deeply he loved Ida. He once burned down and slaughtered an entire village simply because they poisoned her. All of this leads to one conclusion: Loki is one of the most misunderstood characters in the entire story. And this time, the silence of Loki, Shanks, and Goban is not born from helplessness. It is a conscious decision to hide the truth. Why? To understand that, we need to examine Skopper Goban's role in Elbaf. Even Summers was shocked to find Goban there. It's true that Goban now has a family in Elbaf and lives a peaceful life, but chapter 1149 reveals that he had been in Elbaf for a very long time. He met his wife there, and Colin was born on that island. So why Elbaf? The answer traces back to Laugh Tale. Roger's crew realized they had arrived too early. On Fishman Island, they learned of the prophecy about a king who would be born 20 years later and the return of Poseidon. That is why, after Roger's execution, he deliberately ignited the Great Pirate Era, to push a new generation to sail, grow, and eventually reach Laugh Tale. And every member of Roger's crew seems to have accepted a personal mission. Crocus guards the entrance to the Grand Line and guides newcomers. Rayleigh trains Luffy so he can survive the new world. Meanwhile, Shank's entire life feels like a sequence of carefully placed moves. His bond with Luffy, the theft of the Gomu Gomu no Mi, his visit to Mary Geos, his information network, all of it appears to be part of a larger design meant to ensure the next generation succeeds where Roger failed. Even in Shank's conversation with Gabon, he is called the Child of Destiny, yet the meaning of those words is deliberately left unexplained, as if Oda is locking away the greatest key to the story for the right moment. At this point, the conclusion becomes increasingly clear. After the Roger Pirates disbanded, every member walked away carrying a personal mission. It may have been Roger's final request, to safeguard the road to the future, protect the world's remaining hope, and make sure the next Pirate King would one day change everything. And within that grand design, the truth about Loki is one of its most critical pieces. This may explain why Shanks cried during his final conversation with Roger, and why he refused to continue the journey with Buggy. That choice was never about ambition. It was the weight of a mission he could not reveal to anyone. Now, let's turn to Skopper Gabon's role. Isn't it strange how Gabon appeared at the palace at the exact moment Luffy and Zoro arrived, almost as if he had been waiting for them? Even stranger, when Luffy declared that he wanted to free Loki, Gabon immediately revealed that he possessed the key to the chains. He even tested Luffy, clashing with him first, and only after witnessing Luffy's Na form, the very form he had clearly been anticipating, did Gabon hand over the key. The key to releasing a figure believed capable of destroying the world. Does that really make sense? The bigger question is this: why is Gabon the one holding Loki's chains? Not Jiru. Not Dory. Not Broggy. Not the elders of Elbaf. Even the red-haired pirates believed the key was kept by the giant leaders. It wasn't. Now imagine if another captain had asked for that key. Kid arrived at Elbaf first. If Kid had demanded Loki's release, would Gabon have simply given it to him? Of course not. Because from the very beginning, Gabon was waiting for Luffy. And Shanks was waiting for him too. In fact, there's a strong chance that Shanks himself selected the Straw Hat's next destination. At the end of Wano, Luffy, Law, and Kid drew lots to choose their routes, but the outcome felt predetermined. Law was ambushed by Blackbeard and lost everything. Kid reached Elbaf, and was completely crushed by Shanks. Even before seeing the future, Shanks had no intention of letting Kid enter Elbaf. He offered him two options, both of which forced Kid to leave. Meanwhile, Shanks sent Dory and Broggy to Egghead, to escort Luffy directly to Elbaf. It's as if Shanks stood at the gates of Elbaf, waiting to see which captain would arrive first, and making sure that Luffy was the one who did. Gabon himself confirms this. In the flashback, Shanks clearly warned him of Luffy's coming. And when Luffy finally arrived and revealed the Na form, Roger's right-hand man handed over the key without hesitation. But this creates the greatest question of all. If Loki truly is that dangerous, if Shanks alone was capable of stopping him, why are they now allowing Luffy to decide everything? And that is where the deepest mystery begins. How was Loki actually captured? Loki repeatedly mentions Shanks' name. He says he didn't want to pass out like last time and that he never expected Shanks to appear there. He even calls Shanks a coward. Those words suggest that Shanks never truly defeated Loki in a full battle. More likely, Shanks did not overpower him through raw haki alone, because Loki himself is monstrously strong. Shanks probably used another method to restrain him, holding him until he lost consciousness and then binding him in chains. When Loki calls Shanks a coward, it feels more like anger and frustration at being captured. The proof is in his behavior. When Luffy prepared to attack him, Loki immediately took it back and claimed he was joking. He never behaved that way toward Gunko or Shamrock. He endured their attacks, even to the brink of death. Later, when speaking with Shamrock, Loki refers to Shanks as a great pirate. That alone shows that deep down, Loki still respects him. Interestingly, the only other person who ever called Shanks a coward was Buggy, immediately after Roger's death. In both cases, Shanks was forced to make a decision he did not want to make, a decision he could not explain to anyone. That is why he was labeled a coward, even though both Buggy and Loki continued to respect him. The working conclusion becomes this. Shanks and Loki never truly fought at full strength. Shanks only captured Loki to prevent something far worse from happening. And the real reason begins to surface in Harold's final thoughts before his death. He was not thinking about how history would remember him. He was thinking about Elbaf's future. Before dying, Harold made the greatest decision of his life. He sacrificed himself for Elbaf, smiled in his final moments, and entrusted the future of the nation to the next generation, to Loki. What Loki did afterward was even more shocking. He left Elbaf without revealing a single fragment of the truth about what truly happened in the palace. He chose to shoulder all the sins himself, so that his father's name would remain untarnished. That is why even Hyrden once believed Loki had sided with the world government. But the reality is the exact opposite. From the beginning until now, Loki has despised the celestial dragons and the world government. By his own words, his sole purpose in life is revenge for his father's suffering and everything they did to Elbaf. Loki even said that if he had continued forward and challenged the Holy Knights without hesitation, he might already be the king of the world. Of course, that was never the right path. 6 years ago, Shanks stopped him and chained him to Elbaf's world tree. Loki's rage against the world government would have only ended in meaningless death, and Shanks understood that. But make no mistake. This was not about personal affection. Shanks and Loki are not friends. Shanks is kind-hearted, but he always moves according to greater objectives. He had no hesitation in destroying Kid's pirate career. Shanks saved Loki from self-destruction, but his true concern was the legendary devil fruit Loki possessed. The issue was never Loki's intent, it was timing. Everything was happening too fast, far too early. And this is not the first time Shanks has stopped the world from moving too quickly. He prevented Kaido from reaching Marineford. He ended the Marineford War itself. He tried to stop Ace from chasing Blackbeard. Again and again, Shanks acts as the brake on a world accelerating toward catastrophe. In the latest chapter, we finally see the true nature of Loki's devil fruit. Its power directly opposes Emu's abilities. Loki can even negate Harold's regeneration and immortality. In a single panel, it becomes clear, Loki is the key to defeating the Holy Knights. His devil fruit is one of the two most crucial forces capable of bringing down Emu. Rox knew this. And almost certainly, Roger did too. Roger's crew uncovered the true history of the world. Every move Shanks makes today suggests he holds that forbidden knowledge as well. Otherwise, what was the purpose of reaching Laugh Tale? It cannot simply be reduced to they arrived too early without meaning. As stated before, the former Roger pirates are each playing their roles to ensure that the next Pirate King, the next Joy Boy succeeds where Roger himself could not. Shanks did not capture Loki to punish him. He did it to protect Elbaf's legendary devil fruit until the proper moment arrived. That is precisely why Skopper Gaban was the one entrusted with the key to Loki's chains. But now, after Luffy awakened the power of Na, the timing is finally right. Shanks no longer needs to hold the world back the way he once did. In fact, he has openly declared that the race for the One Piece has begun. And for that very reason, Loki can now be released. The order itself came from Gaban. Without a single spoken word, the act of handing the key to Luffy delivered a clear message: the moment has come. Not just for Luffy and Shanks, but for Loki as well. When thinking about Rox, Loki once admitted that the most painful thing in his life was being born too late. He was only a child during Rox's era. He believed Rox rejected him because of his age, and he thought he had been born in the wrong time. Yet the truth is, Rox was never the sun god that Loki now recognizes in Luffy. It remains uncertain whether Loki will fully side with Luffy. But one thing is almost guaranteed: they will fight together against the Holy Knights in Elbaf. What happens after that? Fate, or Oda himself, will decide. Loki also shares striking similarities with Blackbeard. Loki's hero is Rox, the father of Teach. Both of their fathers were destroyed and erased by Emu and the world government. Both Loki and Blackbeard seek to tear down the old world or crown themselves as rulers of a new one. In the end, their goal is the same: to change the world. As we know, Luffy is the sun god, and Elbaf loves Na with all its heart. Loki once worshipped Rox for the same reason, believing him to be Na. Because of this, Loki's future path remains uncertain. He could stand beside Teach, or he could choose to fight alongside Luffy. But now, with Luffy awakened and the final war approaching, one truth becomes undeniable. Their ultimate enemy is the same, Emu. There is even a chance that Loki already knows pieces of Shanks and Gabon's larger plan. Loki remains stubborn, obsessed with freedom, and uninterested in anyone else's grand design. Yet one detail stands out. When Luffy asked why Shanks had come to see him, Loki replied that such information was not free, and he even hinted that he could reveal Shanks' current location. Somehow, Loki truly knows where Shanks is. The real question is, how? And finally, we must not fall into the idea that everyone was simply waiting for Luffy from the beginning, as if destiny had already written everything in stone. Because this story is not about easy fate. It is about a generation prepared to carry the weight of the world. Big thanks to everyone who stayed all the way to the end. If anything's on your mind or you've got questions, drop them in the comments below. Appreciate you for watching, and catch you in the next videos.